welcome to the Cloud Pilot podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here. I know we met in Cloud Next last year in 2022, and it's been a quite some time since we have met. And I'm so glad that you have come here, found your time to share your experience with the audience. Really, really glad that you found time. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome to the Cloud Pilot podcast.
Thank you, Desh. Thank you for welcoming, inviting me over here. All good, as in it's been some time, like you mentioned, and we haven't really connected much back then. So it's good to know that we are able to connect now and interact, and how I was going at your end and connecting with the people at your community level as well. It's great fun here.
Yeah, absolutely a pleasure to have you here. I'm really positive that GFG or Geeks for Geeks is doing so well for all the developer and student community. It's doing a really good job in helping all those people learn. In fact, I would also say that it also helped me in learning some of the things in DSA and programming. So it's been really helpful and great job by you and your team for maintaining it. So why don't we start our conversation with your background, has your journey been, and things like that.
So, as in my journey as a software engineer actually began when I was a little kid, and as most of us, just wanted to develop games, right? When you first interaction was actually playing a game on computer, and I
Yeah.
was like, wow, I just want to develop something like that. And then I got interested into computers. Then somebody told me that you have to become a software engineer to actually be developing games, and that's how I got into programming in school itself. Like my elder brother, he used to do programming in school, and that's where he was learning C++ and all. And I would actually be just sitting with him, like when he was doing homework, and he would teach me things like how loops work and all. So that's how I actually picked up on programming skills. And in school, we had C++ in 11th and 12th standard.
Yeah.
That's how I started with C++. And then in college itself, I started with because I picked up software engineering and CSE branch. That's where I really drilled down on the concepts of programming, and how software works and how software engineering works in general. So that's how I did the 4 years of engineering. And then over a period of time, actually, when I was in college, I would really focus on the only the computer science subjects, and on mostly on the programming, building apps and website, right? And part of it, as when you look at it, any technical interview, part of it is also about clearing those interviews. So that's where I actually didn't focus my work much of my work or time on. So that's where I actually lagged behind and didn't really get that kind of a job that I wanted to at the college level. And for around 6 months or so, I was actually without much work. But even though I had belief in myself and all those skills, but there was not much that I was doing at that point of time. Then later on, I got to know that Sandeep sir itself from our college, he was a professor at my college. So he started off Geeks for Geeks full time, right? So that's where I joined him as a software engineer and as a web developer itself. And that's how over the period it has been, as in we built the team, we built the product, and the team grew, and I grew itself as well with it. So that's how it's been for me.
That's a really wonderful journey from getting something to learn and then building a platform for people to learn those. So for our audience, can we understand what is Geeks for Geeks, or in simple terms, what does Geeks for Geeks do? What is its mission, or what does it envision?
The idea of Geeks for Geeks is very simple, that any kind of technology that you want to learn, it should be easy to learn and accessible to all. It should not be a very costly thing that you have to pay lakhs of rupees to actually get certified in and something. So it should be available for everyone, and it should be available at ease, right? And the spirit of Geeks for Geeks is that people who are learning from the platform are itself giving out to the community in general, wherein they're sending out their interview experiences, what all was asked, what are the questions that they did, and what is the solution actually. So a lot of the solution that you see on the Geeks for Geeks platform itself are given by the users who solve those things and optimize those codes over a period of time. They've developed into something that people can come in and learn at ease. Like if you're going to learn some topic from a book, it's going to be in a very textbook format, right, where you are not, at times you're not able to get that. But when you are looking at Geeks for Geeks itself, it is very easily explained, and everything is very easy to grab because someone actually learned it, explained the concept in a way which is easy for someone like a very beginner to understand. That's how Geeks for Geeks has been. And our idea is to actually make it very, very reasonable and accessible to everyone, so that anybody who's coming in to learn anything, they can come up and pick up those technology and those learnings very easily and upskill themselves, even prepare for jobs. They can come in and prepare for interviews, give out the tech interviews, give that knowledge, what they learned from that interview or any work that they're doing, back to that community. So essentially, we started off with basic articles and blog posts, right? Then we, over a period of time, developed those online judge, wherein you can really go ahead and submit your code and evaluate your code. So that's where we developed the practice platform, wherein you can go ahead and submit your code and evaluate your learning and evaluate yourself, right? Then we felt that there was a need, actually, when we felt that, okay, there is a lot of content on Geeks to Geeks, but to actually crack a certain interview, you would need that only, okay, this is only this much is needed, and you'll be able to actually code anything, any problem that comes in, because it's generally a pattern of problems, a set of problems that you're doing, right? That's how we develop courses, a very targeted learning courses. Firstly, we started off with interview prep, and then over a period of time, we have developed skill-based courses like web technologies or any other technology that they learn. So that was the other part wherein we developed courses. And now we're actually going ahead, a further step ahead, and we're focusing our work on getting the people placed, right? Wherein we'll go ahead and we have created the jobathon, wherein every month we have a lot of companies coming in, and they're hiring the candidates through our own portal, because we have the evaluation portal. We have a lot of people who are looking to upskill themselves or probably change their jobs, so they are coming in on the platform, and they're able to get the best candidates in the industry. And that's how people are seeing that, okay, this is how value is getting added to their lives, right? That's how we focusing most of our work on. So essentially, if you're even someone who's starting off with in computer science, till you're getting a job or probably changing a job, we are there with you at every step of the journey. Just to add to that, only 40% of our traffic is from India, actually. So a lot of the traffic is actually out of India, where, because programming in general is very generic, right? Everybody who's learning, let's say if you're learning C++ in US, or probably learning C++ in India, it's the same concepts and same everything which is applicable in all of the parts of the world. That's how for us it's been great. And we are seeing a lot of people coming in from different parts of the world, different, even from the remotest part of India. You'll see people coming in and learning and upskilling themselves, and that's the beauty of it, right?
How does Geeks for Geeks help these learners in tech?
Like I mentioned, a lot of content is available for free on the website, right? So anybody who's, and we have curated in such a way that if you're at the step one, you'll see that all of the content that we have arranged is in a sequence, and you'll find that it's easy to follow, because it is, again, a very easy to understand English, not very high level English is there. So it's, for us specifically in India, we're not that Shakespearean kind of an English. So it's very simple to understand, and it is actually curated in such a way that you can easily follow that. And then on top of that, we added courses, even going ahead further, and having those curated videos created with the video tutorials, you are able to easily understand how you're doing things. And then there is, of course, doubt support, where people can actually ask the doubts, and we'll, as a team, we answer those doubts and look into those queries. And then again, it's a recurring thing on our platform. If someone is actually using Geeks to Geeks to its potential, they are aware of all the programs and practices that we are doing right now, so they are coming in and getting jobs through the platform itself. So that's how we have tried to keep it, like, every part of the journey which is needed, like whether it is upskilling or even learning the basics, or when you're upskill, you want to get a job, you can get the job and change the job as well. So the kind of, even from fresher jobs to actually experienced jobs, we have all kinds of job available on the platform. And it is something which we are actively working on, to getting the students placed, specifically after the mass layoffs that we have seen in the last year or so. We feel that, okay, there is a need, because in general you'd find that maybe the big tech companies are not hiring, but you would find that there is a lot of companies in India itself which are actually looking for good programmers and good software engineers, right? And there
Yeah,
is a big gap itself when you look at it from the college level. Like what we
absolutely.
teach in college, it's completely different at the industry level, right? So that's
Absolutely.
where we want to bridge that gap, and then again get the people on board we train them and we get them jobs. So that's how we are focusing our work on.
That's really wonderful, being that bridge. And of course, I do admit that there is a huge gap between the academics at college or the education system and what it happens in the real world. There is a huge gap. And I myself have felt it firsthand when I built my career in the cloud. So it's really a big gap that we all can observe. And what do you think are the trending domains in tech right now?
Every year we do see I think from the 2020 we see that specific certain domain gets a lot of hype, and it builds on that. So last year, probably last to last year, it was blockchain that it was getting a lot of hype, and it has probably uh, been under the weather for now. But I feel that AI and ML is probably something which is actually going to be stay relevant for a long period of time, because that is how we are going to get further ahead into the future. Like, so if you look
Yeah.
at it from the human standpoint itself, that human productivity increased over the years. From probably, let's say, if you look at someone from 1940s, we improved the productivity of humans through different technologies, and further using tools and technologies in general. So if you look at it from the 2000s aspect, we probably kind of reached the height of human technology, human productivity increase. But now we need further in terms of technology to how do we make that progress. So in general, productivity is going to increase with the coming of AI and ML. So that's one thing that I feel that is going to be really useful in general. And then of course there are tools that, because we are also going to use a lot of apps and websites, right? So that those are the kind of technologies that are going to stay relevant, where you're building apps, you're building websites, and specifically, like, you specifically work on the cloud aspect of things. So that is going to be a huge aspect which is going to be staying relevant in general, because I don't see small, let's say if you look at it from a very small part of the world, like probably if you look at it from an Indian city, if someone is having an idea and they want to implement that, probably they'll build an app for it, and they'll not really be hiring those servers and all. They'll be running that app on cloud, right?
Yeah.
And probably when the app grows, it is going to it is going to get a lot of data, and you need to have that understanding of data coming in. So you'll have to have data science and machine learning algorithms working on it to actually make sense of what is coming in and what is more relevant and useful for the users to give back from the product. Those
Yeah.
are the things that I feel that are going to stay relevant for a long period of time.
And when it comes to DSA and programming, which Geeks also, which most students focus on becoming a software engineer. So, what do you think is the importance of DSA and programming when it comes to both software engineering and when it comes to students building a career in tech?
So I feel DSA in itself is something which builds your programming mindset or acumen. Like, problem solving attitude is what comes in when you solve a lot of problems using DSA, right? So that's where you understand how the problems work, how their solutions work. You identify the pattern. Okay, this is the kind of data that I'm going to probably get, and this is how I can apply my brain to actually solve that problem. So essentially, when you look at it from what is actually a piece of code, right? It is just a set of instructions which is working on an input and giving out an output, right? That's what good software is going to be. And that set of instructions is what you need to be building in general when you are a programmer. And what is it that is going to help you create that set of instructions is the understanding of the problem itself. And that's what you learn when you're learning DSA, right? So you're building that habit of solving a problem, and when you're given a problem of any kind, you're able to get the minutest of the details. When how is it that this is a problem, what are the factors that is affecting the output of things, right? And that's where you understand how the solution works. So because essentially, with every problem there is a solution lying really next to it, because it is actually the factors that are the variables that are there which is causing the problem. And then you have to identify and mitigate those variables, or probably use those to the best of their advantage to actually create a solution. So that is how we actually see DSA as, because it is going to effectively build your ideology, the mindset of how you are going to solve it. So that's, and if you're building a software, you need that for sure. Or if you're building, and not just a software in general, if you look at someone from someone with a very good DSA, someone with very basic understanding of how things work, right? So someone who's very good with DSA, they have a general problem solving attitude. They're not really someone who's going to just be a part of the problem. They're going to be part of the solution. That's how it helps in for anyone who's probably building in software or getting interviews or cracking those interviews. That's why the interview process includes that DSA round, because effectively you are going to be solving a real world problem, right? And how do I know that you are able to do it? By if you have really solved a lot of problems and you have that mindset, when you're given a problem, you'll be able to coming up with a solution.
I think more than writing programs, I believe it's also about solving that problem what we are trying to
Right.
address.
Think twice, code once, right? So
Yeah.
that why you need to think twice is what is it that I'm going to use the tools that is needed, right? You can actually, so just to give a small funny example, you can actually cut a cake with a sword as well, right?
Yeah.
But if you cut it with a knife, that's a better way to do it.
What do you think is a good roadmap for somebody who wants to start a career in software engineering?
Assuming that person has zero knowledge of tech, I would say that you start off with finding out what is the best suitable programming language for you. So essentially, I feel that programming language is just a tool to actually write code, right?
Yeah.
So you pick up, because any of the programming languages you pick up, they all have that the set of what should I say, frameworks or tools that you can actually build any good software in those, right? If you
Yeah.
have the basic understanding. And learning any programming language, once you've learned one, it's very easy to learn the another one. It's just syntax for you once
Yeah.
you've done it. So I would say firstly focus on any one programming language, be it Python, Java, or any other programming language that you're really interested in, JavaScript probably. And once you've done that, you focus your work on solving problems, right? How data structures and algorithms work. Identify what the data structure is useful for and which one is used when. Identify these algorithms, then again find out what your area of interest is. Like you identified yourself as someone who's interested in cloud, right?
Yeah.
So essentially, of course, with cloud there is also a lot of programming, and it's a different kind of world, right?
Yeah.
In general, because it's there's a lot of scripts that need to be written in cloud itself as well,
Yeah.
right? And then there is web development, there's app development, there's AI, ML. And so personally, you would want to understand what your area of interest is. Where is it that you can really spend a lot of hours and not really get bored and frustrated out of it? Because at times building software can be frustrating. You won't get the results, you won't really understand why the issue is being caused. But if you really are interested in building something, you will get past it. If you're not interested, you'll straight away give up, like I can't really go ahead with it. That's where interest is very important. Identify that interest and really understand the basics of things. So probably something like, if you're starting off with web development, you would want to understand where is it, how the servers work, how the client server architecture works, even the basic of things like if I type in a URL in a web browser, right? How do I see a web page rendered? So these are the things that you'll get to with the interest, right? Very basic things. And then how do I build a website? The basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all that. So, and then again, going ahead with the any technology that you want to learn, probably these days it's about JavaScript, so React.js, Node.js, any specific web technology that you want to work with. It becomes easier with time, because once you've learned something very basic programming language, the general concepts remain the same. The object-oriented programming, the how the functions work, how the methods work in any which way, and how the data is being passed, what are the protocols, all those things, it becomes easier. And you're able to pick up on any other language very easily. It really just takes a month or 2 months for you to actually grab onto the next one, and so on. So get ahead, get the interest. So starting up from the very basic, get the interest, get the programming language and technologies working, build projects. Essentially, this is
Yeah.
where it is going to value a lot, right? Wherein if you're not building projects and just learning it through a course which is just teaching you theory and everything, it's not going to help much. Once you build the
Absolutely.
project, you deploy the app on cloud probably, and that's where you understand, okay, now it's you have some understanding of the things. That's where the magic lies, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the key differentiator from learning and doing things. So recently, I have been observing, like the past 1.5 years, probably maybe after the COVID era, I've been observing quite some demand in data science coming up. So, what do you think is the relevance of data science these days?
As we have moved most of our things online, there's a lot of data that is being produced through all the apps and websites that we see in the world, right? And to make use the best use of those data, you would need to have, you can't really put it on a person to make the best, to understand what is coming in, because it is coming in such large numbers that you can't really put a human behind it.
Yeah.
So you would want to have some understanding of some algorithms working behind it to actually make sense of the data, how we can use it to the best of the knowledge, and probably get more value to the user itself, back to the user. That's where data science is probably, I would say, is used, wherein you would actually want to have that machine learning, or probably any AI tool which is actually working on that large amount of that data that we are producing. That's where it really helps, and I would see that this is going to be a very growing field in general in itself.
Well, speaking in that terms, what do you think are the skills that someone need in order to pursue a career in data science?
So I would say, if you're not interested in maths, data science is not your field actually. So you would actually want to have a very good understanding of statistics, as in how, what are the models, how these things work, right? So you would want to have that understanding of statistics. You would want to have the understanding of basic programming as well. Like, you'd probably be working with Python or R, whichever you prefer. So basic understanding of that programming language, understanding of statistics, what, how the models work and all. So a major part that people seem to miss is something is understanding of the business that you're developing for, right? So you need to have that business use case and mindset about it. Let's say if I say that, because in general, when any application, you look at the data, it produces a lot of data. So what is the useful factors coming in? You would want to understand that from the business perspective. Okay, these are the factors that I want to be putting more importance to, and this is what I'll use from the max 100 factors. I'll probably pick those 20 and build the application on and understanding on. And that's where you would also want to have that understanding of business, understanding of, apart from the statistics and programming languages. So that is where I feel that the very major factor which differentiates a lot of good data scientists from the not so good ones. That's where I feel. And then of course, the business data tools, like, because you're going to be processing a lot of data, so those tools like Hadoop and all help. And of course, data visualization. Once you have build the product, you'll want to see that, okay, what are the results looking like. Those are the tools that you would want to have that better understanding.
When it comes to preparing for interviews, what are some of the strategies that you think would be good to crack them? Because most people have that knowledge, but they don't really know how to utilize it properly or to strategize how they want to perform in the interviews. So in those cases, what would you suggest to prepare for those interviews?
So I am someone, like you mentioned, right, who knows things but don't know how to crack interviews. So that's I am someone from my college days. I was like this one, so only. So I probably would say that the thing that I didn't do, I would say you should do, was practicing those online judges, and having that practice done, what it puts you into that mindset of solving a question in an hour or so. And that's where it will create a difference. When you're solving it in without any timer, without any pressure, you're probably better coming up with solutions. But when you're solving it in a time pressure and all that, you would want to have that kind of practice built with you. So it's something which you need to do a lot, is practice. And of course, read out on what the companies are. So if you're applying for any company, all of the companies have a specific kind of requirement and interview pattern. So they, because their tools are probably built around that they want to have that kind of understanding of people, that do these people understand these data structures or not, and all that. So that's where every company has a unique way of hiring, and they have their own interview patterns and set of questions that they ask. So go through those, all of those, practice those again, and do a mock interviews with your friends, or probably that's where you can get that how should I put it, that fear of going through an interview out of your system. And of course, one other fear that is there is of rejection. So you should not really be scared about getting rejected, because that's part of life, right? So
Yeah.
appear in as many interviews as possible, and get that fear of rejection out of your system as well. These are the things I would say that really helpful in general when you're preparing for interviews or cracking an interview.
I think that fear of rejection is also a critical piece.
Going through that rejection part and really not getting through it, it kind of affects your system, as in your self belief. But I would say that is something that every successful person has been through, and good to know that you could actually get your dream job after, even after a lot of rejection, and you would actually kept pursuing through it.
I think that's also where Geeks for Geeks can help with the interview preparation, because I have noticed there are several modules and several strategies which Geeks for Geeks helps in preparing for interviews. So I'll definitely recommend viewers to check that out. Yeah, I think we're out of the questions. It was really amazing talking to you. How do you feel? What do you want to tell to our audience?
I think it's always good to connect with the people from the community, our own community, from the tech audience, because essentially we have all of us have learned through some way or the other from other people, right?
Yeah,
Through their learnings, through their probably tutorials and how they have learned. We learn from them. So that's where I feel that you should never stop actually learning. You should actually always be on lookout on what you can learn from someone else. And when you're actually focusing your learning on something, you're actually would want to do a lot of work on your own, like practicing a lot of questions, probably building a lot of projects. These are the things that are going to stay with you, because when you're building something, you're imbibing that knowledge within your system itself. Being persistent through those things as well is something that we actually should do, because being consistent is the only way in general in tech. When
absolutely.
you're consistent through whatever you're doing, you'll see success in itself.
And I think we are coming to the top of the time, but thank you so much, Shikhar, for, once again for coming to the podcast, spending time with the audience, and for sharing your knowledge and expertise.
Thank you, Desh. Thank you for inviting me.
So I found that Geeks for Geeks is also running a job fair where students can find internships and full-time opportunities. Can you, expand more on that?
Yeah, so we as a company are looking out for a lot of people coming in on our platform, right? So we want to get them placed as well, and that's why we are connecting with a lot of companies, 100 plus companies that we connected with. And a lot of people are actually looking for jobs which are, as someone who's a college student or probably a very fresher, they're looking for internships or SD1 jobs. So that's what we have focused this job fair around, wherein anybody who's actually skilled, there's a lot of, again, varied skills of jobs that are available there. So anybody who's interested in any internships or any jobs that they want to apply for, so they can go ahead and check out that and see if that is something suitable for you, and if that works, and you can apply for those jobs and see if you get the interview call and all that. So we are actively working on getting the interview. So a lot of time what happens, people apply for jobs and they don't really hear back from the HRs, right?
Yeah.
This is our responsibility. We'll connect with the HRs and we'll get back. So that's what we are focusing a lot of work on.
That is really going to improve the interview experience of all the candidates who are applying for this. So definitely a compelling opportunity, and I totally recommend everyone to check that out. The link is on the description. Do check it out, and thank you so much for watching. I hope this has helped you. Thank you, Shikhar, once again. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll catch up soon on another one. Till then, it's me, the Cloud Pilot, signing off.